Welcome back to the AI Ripple Effect podcast, everybody. Today, we're lucky enough to be joined by Tom Valentine, who is the president and founder of Valentine Solutions LLC. Tom, welcome to the Ripple Effect podcast.
Thanks, Adrian. Excited to be here and look forward to our conversation together.
It's great to have you on board, and we're really looking forward to hearing your insights. So, Tom, why don't you start by giving us a bit of background about yourself and your journey to where you've got today, a bit about Valentine Solutions and what you guys do, and who you serve from a customer perspective.
Sure. I might not answer those in order for you. So a little bit about myself and my background. It's not an extended resume. It's actually quite condensed. After graduating college, I was born and raised Northeast Ohio. Went to college in a small college in West Virginia. A marketing degree with a minor in computer science. Played football there as well for a few years. My first opportunity was with a company called Marshall Industries. It was in the semiconductor distribution business. And I was a field sales rep out of Columbus, Ohio. And we had a great journey. We had a great experience. Through the 11 years that I was with them, started field sales, went to sales management, and then took over the branch management in Northern Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. We were about 200 million, ended up they sold the company, which was based out of California, for about 1.8 billion. In 1999. So it was a great run, a lot of lessons learned. Sometimes when you're in something, especially being young, you may not realize it until you get a little bit older and you look in the rearview mirror and you say, wow, I was very blessed to have those experiences, those relationships, and some of those life lessons as well, both on a personal and professional level. Took a little time off. We moved to Georgia. My beautiful wife, Deborah, coming up on 34 years. We currently reside down in Georgia. Prior to that, I had an offer to help out a small mid-sized logistics, non-asset third-party logistics company, and came on board with them as a director of corporate sales. We all worked together. Great environment, great culture. We focused mostly on SMBs, but we had a couple of little bit larger customers. With my background, that's where I focused a little bit. Extremely customer-centric, and that was parallel with the culture and lessons that I came from Marshall Industries. As director of corporate sales, we had responsibility, so we helped grow that business up to 2008, and that was sold to private equity early that year. The private equity company, was melding two other companies, so a total of three into one. And we actually still represent that company today. But I decided that in 2010 that I chose my own path and went back to kind of being a sales agent, was our terminology. Now we're called channel partners. Everything evolves, but that's when I started Valentine Solutions. So this is our 15th year. For the first 5 to 6 years, really was just representing the single company. As we continue to grow that business, grow our customers, we started having customers ask for things outside of our normal scope, which was heavy, less than truckload, over the road, pretty much all domestic North America. We did service, and we do service other modes. But what we did was customers started asking for things outside of that blocking and tackling. Built a lot of relationships by getting involved with associations and local engagements here, not only in Atlanta, but throughout the country. I found out that, I think we'll take a model back from my old semiconductor days and apply it to the logistics sector. And so today, Valentine Solutions, we represent just over 35 different companies that we're a channel partner for. And the three core buckets that we focus on are supply chain, freight management, warehousing, and fulfillment. And in each one of those buckets, we have a multitude of different solution providers that we plug and play. So as a sales agent company or a channel partner, we're an extension of all of those companies' sales force. And our job is to find opportunities in the marketplace where companies, we refer to them as challenges. Others may call them pain points, problems, whatever. Our view is we refer to them as a challenge because we believe there is a solution in the marketplace. Okay. And even if we don't have it, we can probably refer them to somebody that does.
That's typically Go ahead. Is that typically because they don't have the time and you guys are so well networked, you immediately know where those solutions are? Is that the
Let me give you an analogy. We get confused a lot of times and say, oh, well, Valentine Solutions is a consulting company. Well, yes and no. And the yes and no to that answer is no, we're not really a consulting company. We're a sales organization. We're a solution company. So the yes to that is that we have some very good consulting companies that we represent. So the difference between the two is, one, we're not agnostic like a true consultant would be, right? So we go through a similar process though. So our senior referral partners, which are a lot of them are former C-suite individuals that are part of the Valentine Solution team. And they're all 1099. They'll bring an opportunity to the table. We'll jump on a phone call together with that particular decision maker and discuss that challenge that they have in one of those core buckets. And unlike a consultant that will probably take that, do a deeper dive, go do a scoping call, and eventually maybe spend some time and then put together a report out and say, here's your challenge at a much deeper level, and this is what you need to do to fix it. We actually turn around and do the same thing, except where we bring forward our solution provider that's going to solve and fix the challenge. So we actually bring the solution to the customer and work with them on that particular engagement. And I'm sure we'll get the opportunity where we can give you some examples where that comes through. But that's the big key differential between a consulting company and Valentine Solutions. Not that we can't do consulting. We have very good top-notch consulting groups that we can plug in. And some of our senior referral partners are actually consultants as well, and they have their own consulting business.
Got it. I mean, I can see that's hugely valuable, where you can immediately see the solutions to those challenges as you highlighted it. And you obviously have a breadth of experience and you have a breadth of customers currently, especially in the logistics space. What are you seeing, Tom, as the key trends in the market at the moment?
Well, the key trends in the marketplace is twofold. AI is the topic of conversation. What do I do with AI? How do I, what am I going to do with it? How do we implement it? Is it safe? All those variable questions. The other one is tariffs. Now, tariffs are starting to slide down the chain a little bit because things are starting to get leveled out, for lack of a better term. And if I digress for a little bit, I've had some of my customers over the course of time here. Actually, I was at an industry event in the marine industry at the beginning of April when the tariffs were announced. And those sidebar conversations were, well, oh my God, what's going to happen? Our prices are going to increase right away. What's going on? Our response was pretty immediate and saying, well, if you have suppliers coming to you now saying that you have a price increase immediately, then you should be asking them, you're telling me you have no inventory here in the United States or North America? So there's a balance. So with that, we also have a solution provider. Again, we're a very diverse company. We have a really good solution provider that actually does deep data dive and helps companies out. They even critique their model to actually help companies better understand what is the right decision through your data to be making on whether do I charge more? If so, how much? What is my cost to serve? What is my profitability levels? Are my customers profitable? What is my supply chain doing? What about my raw material? What about the products that we're producing? Is that all actually positive revenue generation at the end of the day? So with the opportunities for tariffs, there's only so many options as you can do with a tariff. I mean, we can talk about it if you want, but real simply, you can eat it so you don't pass it on to your customers. You can pass it all on to your customers. You can eat some of it and share it with your customer, or you could do nothing.
I guess the challenge is, in that variation, or it seemed previously that the variation in those tariffs, and it was being able to plan in that volatile market around, how do you make sure your costs are optimized? How do you make sure your inventory's? But it sounds like that's settling down a little bit more now, Tom, is it?
Well, that's a word. It's at the beginning stages of settling down. So I'm going to give you the Valentine solution. Basically, it's just my opinion, my industry opinion, and I've kind of steadfast on this. Which back in April when it came out, I said we have a president that is a disruptor. I mean, it's how he negotiates. He'll shake your hand, but he also there's an agenda there. Right? So came into office, peeled the Band-Aid off right away because as a businessman, I know that there's going to be pain. And what's that pain? Well, that pain is increase in tariffs when it goes 125%, 145% with our friends in China. That's a heavy lift to digest. Well, we all pretty much knew that's not where it's going to end up or where it's going to stay, but it's leverage. So what we were telling our customers and conversations such as we're having today is, you know what? Give it time to work through the process. Yes, it's going to be painful for the next 90 days plus, maybe really the first half of the year. We're already here. We're into July already. But look what's happened. The Band-Aid was pulled off. Tariffs are being level set. Agreements are being made. All this talk is going to be put on the shelf probably the next 30 to 45 days. And the tariffs are going to be, but what happens at the end of the day? We have American companies where we now have a trade balance instead of a trade imbalance for our import exports. We have some additional revenue generation coming into the United States that was not there before. But from a business standpoint, from what we see, going back to your statement on, do I have enough inventory? What am I doing? About every bonded warehouse is packed and stacked right now because everybody said, how much stuff can I get depending on where the country it was coming from? How fast can I get it in here onshore in the bonded warehouse? Because you can leave it in there for 5 years plus without any type of tariff until you pull it out of inventory. With that being said, we don't know if that was really the prudent move. We'd have to talk to the customers and do some data analytics to actually, that may cost them a lot more money than in the long run than it does in the short run. But time will tell on that.
Okay, and you touched upon that second point around AI being a trend that you're seeing in the market. What is your take on that? And is that a silver bullet for your clients' pain points, your clients' challenges as you turn them, or does it compound challenges around how do they adopt that technology? What's the organizational change needed to make that successful within those organizations?
Yeah, great question, Adrian. And I wasn't circumventing that because I know that you were going to come back to that, because actually tariffs is the immediate, like right now, it's going through that transition. And I think we went up that hill very rapidly in the roller coaster, and we took the jaunt down, and now we're just starting to level those tariffs out. So I think that's where we're at with the tariffs. But AI, that's the disruptor. And people say, well, is it positive? Is it negative? Disruption, we view it as it could be both. It really depends on the company and how you're going to adopt and implement AI. If we go back just a few years ago, which no one really ever talks about now, hardly, the word blockchain. So what did you experience during the fanfare of blockchain?
It was the panacea to everything. I mean, I was covering a lot of different industries, but one was, from a digital contracts perspective, and being able to verify ownership across any asset, whether it was tokenized from a commodities perspective. So that would be interesting. And from a logistics perspective, who owns what commodity as it transports across various supply chains. How do you link a digital token to a real world asset? But then what manifested was it wasn't fast. It was very energy consuming, and it was complicated to implement. So there were barriers for that technology, and it wasn't delivering the value that was trumpeted about how it was going to solve everything.
So that roller coaster climbed a big hill and just fell off a cliff. Not that there's not value to blockchain, because there is, and some of those value points that you brought out. But AI is a totally different beast. AI is here to stay. And for those of the people that don't believe it or the naysayers, well, you're going to learn one way or the other. And AI is already here in our daily lives, whether we realize it or not. So as it applies to industry, we actually have, again, we're a very diverse company, right? Given my background in the tech world, I'm a bleeding edge guy. So I love bleeding edge tech. I love bleeding edge technologies in regards to bleeding edge solutions, and seeing where they're headed and what's going on. We actually have a solution provider that has developed one of the first AI engines with no code. It was done, he created his AI engine through a combination of other AI engines.
Yeah.
And it can be used in a private format. So it's not going out to, so one of the biggest risks, and really two key things in AI. One, do you trust it? And my friend will tell you, don't trust the output. And number two, you have to trust but verify. So you have to go through and validate the information. And I'll share something with here, a little experiment I did prior to us jumping on a call, just because I was curious. But with AI, it's the second point is actually prompt engineering. What are you asking it to do, and for what information? Right?
Yeah.
Because the the better and stronger your prompt engineering is and methodology of how you're asking AI to give you information back is going to be a higher percentage of accuracy at the end of the day.
Agreed.
And with that, I was on Chat GPT 04-mini, and I asked it, what percentage of the time is Chat GPT 04-mini correct with its information that it's providing? So I asked it to tell me how accurate it actually is. And it came back with an answer that there's not a single universal applicable percentage correct for that, because of the accuracy depends on the type of task and the type of quality of the prompt and the domain.
Yeah, and often, right, certainly if you're using agents and they're passing on, they're having to be prompted to create something, and if that isn't validated, it passes on to another agent. There's a compounding issue there. So maybe it can deviate quite quickly if you haven't got your framework, as you correctly said, in place to keep it on the right rails with prompts and validate what comes out the other end with a validation framework. So that's a great point.
Yeah. And by the way, it says it's 75 to 85% accurate, which is pretty good. So if you think about what we're doing with all the functionality of AI, and I'll give you a real life business example here in a second, to have that accuracy and the amount of time that it has cut down in your process to be able to gather that information and be so specific in your end goal is utterly amazing. So in the C-suite with AI, the big concerns, of course, are security, privatized data. How do we secure it? And I've seen this, and I share because I love to learn, and I learned from my friend who's very deep into the AI. It's don't put your company name and information, because if you're putting that into Chat GPT or Grok or any of the other AI engines, it learns from all of us. So you're actually committing your own sin by putting your company information and name. You want to be anonymous, be ABC company. But still, you can still utilize the engine if you're going out to the public sector. The nice thing about our solution provider is that they actually have a total AI engine that can be privatized and stay within your four walls.
That's the key thing, making sure you have control on that data.
So if you allow me, I'll give you a real-time example of how AI came in that I utilized. I'll keep names out of it, but we have warehousing and fulfillment partners that we work with all over the country. And there was a foreign company that wanted to partner with a North American company to bring their products. We'll call them supplement company. So they were supplements, and they wanted to bring them from another country and have a distribution channel and network here in the United States to distribute their product. We were deep down, probably into our fifth, sixth phone conversation, what we believed was going to be our last phone conversation for the engagement to happen. Right. That's how far along we were. There was an attorney that was on the particular conference call, and the question came up, well, before we do any type of engagement, we'd like to know, can we utilize the business address of your company for a DMB? I was never, myself and our solution provider had not been asked that before. So I literally jumped over, and as we were on the call, I asked and did a prompt real quick saying, what is the risk to an American company sharing its address? It came up with probably 20 different, it should have just came up flashing, no, don't do it. But it gave me reasons on the call. I text our solution provider because we were in separate locations. And we terminated the call and we terminated the relationship, because that ended up being the primary reason they were looking for an American company to do business. So we avoided all that risk and all that liability, potential liability and risk, because of very specific answers that AI provided to us.
Got it. Amazing. I mean, that's a great example of where
risk mitigation.
Yeah, I mean, it's the power, it's the positive side. There is a lot of hype about disrupting of artistic industries, disrupting workforce. But do you see any of that, Tom, at all in any of your conversations? Is anybody picking up on that?
Of course. Yeah, we have some systems integrators that we represent. I mean, they're implementing robotics, automation, AI solutions. So yeah, it's definitely a topic of conversation. And typically the first part is usually framed around workforce and the impact of workforce. Today's world, the traditional distribution center and warehousing model is changing. A lot of people don't care to work in that environment. So the business community will find ways to make that work. What we do find, again, give you real life, it's not a secret, was on a tour with CSCMP, which is one of our national associations that I belong to. And they had a tour up in North Georgia with, I can say their name, it's Duluth Trading Company. Love
Right.
their stuff, by the way. If you're
Right.
outdoorsmen, check out Duluth Trading Company. There's a plug. They have a 100,000, it was about 300, 400,000 square foot facility. Total SKUs of over like 168,000 SKUs. They had 11 people in the warehouse. They put in an automated auto store to help with their fulfillment to their actual brick and mortar stores, but even more so to direct to consumer. Fascinating to watch a honeycomb environment if you haven't seen how an auto store works. Kroger grocery stores out of Cincinnati was one of the first to use that type of technology. Utterly amazing. But from a workforce standpoint, yes, you've limited the number of probably day workers from that standpoint.
Yep.
But now you have a facility that can run pretty much 24/7. And those individuals that are working there are being trained at a different level. So they're not just running a forklift now. They're learning about automation, or what do I do when the auto store has a hiccup? How do I fix it? The level of education and knowledge from the tech side of the equation is playing more of a role in the workforce environment.
That's a great point. I mean, and you'd think, hopefully, that there's a greater level of job satisfaction with doing those activities, learning new things, than, say, the manual processing or other such things. So that's a great perspective. Tom, so from the perspective of Valentine Solutions and your journey to where you are today, what have been the key milestones, challenges that maybe you've come across, and how have you overcome those?
Yeah, so a couple questions that you wrapped up there. I guess a couple of the milestones was in that probably fifth or sixth year of having a realization of, we know people, we have relationships. So we started formalizing some of those relationships. But how do those relationships start?
Yeah.
And I was honored to participate with the University of North Georgia just a few weeks ago, and they have a high school logistics camp that they sponsor every year. Got to spend time with high school students, and I know I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but bear with me here, right? Having those opportunities to talk to the younger generation that's typically face and phone, that's about what you get.
I know it. Yeah.
But to share with them the relationship, how important it is to build relationships. I know, like I said, I'm a bleeding edge guy. I love it. But at the end of the day, for you and I to have eye to eye contact, and yes, I understand the virtual world is here. Every day I have virtual meetings, but there is nothing like standing or sitting in front of somebody across the table. I like to be beside them, if possible. Get out there, boots on the ground, walk the operations, understand what it is that they do, because it's not only about being customer centric at the end of the day, it also gives you a taste and a feel for what type of true challenges that they may be facing, that they may not be able to see through their lens because they're looking at it from their core competency and not a logistics, supply chain, freight management, warehousing solution lens. So I would say that fifth to 6 year mark of the realization of saying, you know what, let's be able to offer more, because it's the same process for the most part. Another part of the journey, which was I like to reiterate, which is just never stop learning. You're never too old to learn something. And I know there's that old adage, try to learn something new every day. Well, that's a very simple statement, but it's very true. And it doesn't really necessarily have to be something, it doesn't have to be a huge nugget of knowledge, but try to learn something somehow, some way.
Sure.
And I'll give you my example. You were talking about defining moments. I didn't know anything about building a distribution center. Nothing. I worked
Right.
construction, helping pay my way through high school and college. So I could dig ditches. I could do other stuff, manual labor. But as far as the design, layout, all the things that's needed to build a distribution center from greenfield environment, never did that before. But one of our solution providers we brought in, we did a 2-day facility assessment with a company out in Wichita, Kansas. And we went through their multiple facilities. They liked the report. It was a consulting opportunity. So
Right.
2-day project. We did the report out. 6 months later, they came to us and they go, hey, we liked what you guys, how you guys roll. Could you help us build a facility? Well,
Right.
again, I know, Valentine Solutions goes 1,000 feet wide and 100 feet deep. We know our lane. What we do is we bring in our solution provider who goes 1,000 feet deep and 100 feet wide because
Yeah.
that's their core competency. We just happen to be blessed to be able to know who to bring in at the right time for the right reason to solve the right problem at the right value proposition. We brought in, the company doesn't exist. It's actually now under the umbrella of Uber Freight, believe it or not.
Right.
It was a smaller company back then. A good friend of mine, Robert Medichenko, who's industry thought leader globally, was the CEO of that company. We worked together and it turned out to be about a 3.5 year project. We took 3 different locations, built a whole distribution center from ground up. I personally wanted to stay attached. I didn't have to, but I did. Why?
Right.
Comes full circle because I wanted to learn. So I know that there's a sprinkler system. A sprinkler head has to be in every pallet position as part of code. I know why they slant the roofs and that now forklifts, that if you're going 5 high or higher on racking system, your propane and gas forklifts can't reach that high. So you have to go electric.
And I guess that is part of your value to your customers, that you have the knowledge in yourself and you can relate and understand where those challenges or pain points are, but also you have a better understanding of your solution partners and how they fit to solve those challenges that your customers have. So I think it's a great lesson to be learned, and make sure that you immerse yourself in those challenge areas, understand the problem, and then you can solve those.
Yeah, there's always something something that I was taught with Marshall Industries. If you've never watched the movie Miracle on 34th Street, it's a classic. I think it's from 1947. The premise of that whole movie is a Macy's versus Gimbel. Macy's department store versus Gimbel. But at the end of the day, what are you doing in the industry? What am I doing in the industry? What are we doing as individuals, regardless of our, whether we're boots on the ground driving the forklift or if we're at the C-suite and in the boardroom?
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
end of the day, we all exist because of our customers. That's our food chain. If you're not focused at the end of the day of being customer-centric and focused on the customer and what they truly need, and we go back to the Macy Gimbel scenario, maybe we don't have the solution. But if they're calling Valentine Solutions, if they're reaching out to us and saying, this is our challenge, if we don't have it, I don't care if I give it to, I don't want to say competitor, but sure, if that competitor is going to solve that customer's challenge because we just don't have it in our suite of services, we just brought value to that customer, even though they're not even a customer of ours yet, but they might be one day.
Right. It's a great lesson. I mean, it was one of the big, when I worked at General Electric, it was one of their biggest focus points, voice of the customer. Always listen to the voice of the customer, which is exactly that. It's a great point, Tom.
Yeah. So you asked about my history, and I do go back to the Marshall Industries scenario because a lot of my colleagues are still out there around. Maybe someone will even see this podcast, but it was such a blessing, the environment that I grew up in, because our culture was focused on the voice of the customer. Gordon Marshall was the founder, turned the company over to Rob Roden. Rob ended up, we partnered with Dr. Edward Deming. So all of these solutions and voice of the customer, and it was funny because I'll never forget this. It was in the early 2000s, and all these salespeople started coming out with, it's solution selling. Listen to your customer and that. Quit presenting PowerPoints. And I scratched my head so much I lost my hair. For me, I was confused. I was like, is there a different way to do it? But I didn't know any better because I wasn't taught something different. I happen to be blessed that we were taught the right way to listen to our customers.
Awesome. You've come on that journey. You have that great offering and a great customer base. So what does the future hold for Valentine Solutions? What have you got planned over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, so great question. One is always our priority, customer first. So we will always remain customer centric. That's the number one priority. It's in every plan, every conversation, all day long. So that's a constant with us, our focus. From a growth standpoint, we have a lot of solution providers. Candidly, was just in a meeting yesterday with a potential new solution provider that has a pretty unique technology that they're bringing to the market to help on the warehousing fulfillment side. AI is a back engine to it as well. So again, AI coming into our everyday lives, even though we may not realize it, but it's bringing value and to the marketplace. But we're really focused for the next 12 months on growing our senior referral partner network. And I mentioned that to begin with. In my world, we work off of our smartphone, our laptop, or Chromebooks. Everybody's 1099, which means they're a contract. We don't have any W-2 employees. Just everybody is senior in nature, possibly from industry, not necessarily the logistics industry or logistics segment, because we don't care. We're industry agnostic.
Yeah.
And we're candidly size agnostic. And by that, I mean, we have solution partners that we can help startups all the way through Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
It really depends on what their specific challenge is of who we bring in to help solve that.
Got it. Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Not trying to be everything to everybody, but I can tell you that we're very successful in streamlining processes, bringing value, giving time back to the customer, and of course, hard dollar savings as well.
Got it. Amazing.
And how we do that depends on what their challenge is. And if you want a real life example, we're heavy in the marine industry. We just brought on about 5 new boat manufacturers. Adrian, if you need a boat, we have anything from skiffs to 65-foot yachts.
I think the former side of the equation, I think, rather than that.
So that's heavy supply chain management. But I'll give you real life, and I'll leave names out of it. But there are a couple years, they've been a customer now for just a couple years, but the president of that company is a very, very well-respected industry leader in the marine industry and worked for billion-dollar-plus companies. Here is at a mid-sized boat manufacturer working to turn that around, and was basically asked, what are you going to do? How are you going to save us money? How are you going to do it better? I'll fast forward to the punchlines. We ended up saving them over 28% in hard dollar savings immediately in their supply chain, managing the supply chain. In our QBR quarterly report review that we had, the president of the company looked at me and he goes, "Do you know how much time you saved us?" And I go, "Well, we didn't do a time study." He goes, "I'll cut to the quick. You save us between 20 to 25 hours a week."
Wow.
Because now they're focused on building boats and the quality of the boats instead on logistics and managing their supply chain and how stuff is getting from their suppliers to them. Amazing. We handle all that with our solution provider.
Tom, that sounds amazing. And it sounds like you guys have a fantastic offering for your customers with your partners. So for those guys out there who are interested in finding out more, Tom, about Valentine Solutions, where can they get that information?
Awesome. In a couple places. Valentine Solutions LLC.com is our website. And when you do get there, I would encourage you to just scroll down on the homepage briefly. You'll see those 3 core buckets of supply chain, freight management, warehousing, and fulfillment. If you click on that, it'll take you to a sub-page that'll list all the valued services and the challenges that we can address for each one of those buckets. Also, we're blessed. We don't do email blasts and things of that nature. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think it's a great business community on a global basis. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Be happy to. And we can take that conversation offline if you like. If you'd like to be a senior referral partner with Valentine Solutions, we'd love to have that conversation with you as well. And if you want to call, you can call our office at 770-360-5537. That's 770-360-5537. And we look forward to having some further conversations and addressing more challenges in the marketplace.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure we include all of those links and your phone number into the description of the podcast so people can get access more easily. But for now, Tom, fantastic insights, brilliant conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing with others. And for everybody out there, thank you for joining. For those listening and for those watching, we will see you in the next episode of the AI Ripple Effect. But for now, Tom, thank you so much.
Adrian, thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on the Ripple Effect. For those of you who have not checked him out, please do so. Adrian's a great guy. We're building a relationship together that I think is going to be long-standing as well. And if you want to contact me directly, it's this, Tom at Valentine Solutions LLC.com, and I will answer your email.